Hey everybody, you got Ryan Erickson here with AFWERX. We'll be starting in a few minutes. We do not start early. We're giving everybody a few minutes to dial in, and we'll start a few minutes after the hour. Thanks for making time out of your day to listen into our AMA for Sbir 21 and .1 and Sttr 21.a. It'll make sense later on. If that doesn't make sense now, just hang tight. Happy Friday, folks, from the AFWERX team. We want to say thanks again for dialing in. For those of you who are on the call, a few minutes earlier, we gave everybody a few minutes to get to this channel. We're excited to talk to you today. More importantly, we're excited to answer some of the questions you may have. So we've got a few slides. We'll run through them as fast and as funny as we can, and then we can open it up to answer the questions that you guys have on the YouTube channel. So make sure if you got a question, go ahead and start throwing them in chat, and we'll address those as we go or at the end of the slideshow presentation. I'm Ryan Erickson. I go by Leaf. I've been in the Air Force 19 years. And I've been with AFWERX for about 2, and then merged over into AFWERX as a director of operations when we started to scale out this SBIR and STTR program. One of the best places to work for the Air Force. So I am excited to be here. And I'm also excited to talk about the next opportunity we have for SBIR and STTR is still going. I'm joined by the program managers and experts of each of the verticals. I'll turn it over to Zoe to introduce herself, and then we'll pass the mic there.
Thanks, Leaf. I'm Zoe Walters, Lieutenant in the Air Force, soon to be the United States Space Force. I run the Sbir Phase 1 program, so I'm the program manager, and I'll be able to talk you guys through in a little bit about that specific vertical, and I'll turn it over to Jared for the STTR Phase
1. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jared Evans. I've been with AFWERX and Air Force Ventures for about 1.5 years now. Working the STTR program, the Small Business Technology Transfer Program with small businesses and research institutions. We'll talk more about the opportunity there and how it relates to the SBIR program here in just a minute, but excited to be here talking with everyone. Thanks.
And hi, I'm Jimmy Colrain. I am running the Direct to Phase 2 program and excited to talk to you about the opportunities there.
All right, folks, Ryan Erickson here back with you. Hopefully you can see the slides going up. Can I get a thumbs up from my team, making sure I got the right screen up, and we're all going to be talking to the same information. Great. All righty. Real quick, we know you have a lot of great capabilities, a lot of technology that's groundbreaking. Now is not the time for you to tell us about it, especially get into some proprietary information. We're just going to talk about the ways to connect, the ways for you to participate in this program. So please, no classified proprietary information in chat, and we'll be sure to answer those questions as best we can through YouTube. We'll answer them here live, and after we're done with our presentation. You've already met the leads. Additional add is our lead contracting officer for the program, Chris Croak. She's great. So if you ever come across her later on in the program, that's who she is. She's the lead contracting officer. Everything we're telling you today You don't have to remember. You don't have to take notes, and there's not going to be a quiz on this. If you get lost, if the call drops, best place to go, afworks.af.mil. Click on AFVentures for Industry, scroll down to Sbir Open Topics or Sttr Open Topics, and everything we're talking about will be caged there in a simple to read format. So please, no stress. Why are we doing this? For every $1 the federal government is spending in research and development, the private sector is outdoing us 5 times. So can we simply just benefit the research and development, the progress you guys, the great minds of America that are making in the private sector, and just adapt it for government use? That's our investment thesis here. So we're reaching out to you, the folks with the great ideas, with the entrepreneurship skills, with the technical know-how, that's outpacing the federal government, to just come on board and let's find a defense market fit and see if we can transition your technology. So in order to do that, we understand that there are barriers that you already have. Odds are the majority of the companies on this call right now have never done work with the government before. They have no clue if their product has a defense market fit. They don't have a front door. Who are they going to talk to pitch their solution? Access to data, and then much more significant is what's next. I don't see my technology as an X-Raytheon. I don't see me being a prime contractor for the Department of Defense. Those are some of the biggest barriers we see. So we're starting to tackle those and mitigate some of that. You'll appreciate that the requirements to submit a proposal for the Department of Defense is very simple. A couple cups of coffee, and you're rocking and rolling with a proposal. We'll introduce you to defense stakeholders. Come on board with a phase 1 contract, and we'll help you connect your potential solution with the potential problem that we're seeing in the Department of Defense. And then last but not least, the transition aspect. Phase 1 is a great way for you to start navigating that route with a stakeholder. For 3 months, we'll pay you to just simply talk, to determine if there's a defense market fit for your solution, and to come up with a transition strategy. There's 99 different ways for you to transition a technology for the federal government. And so we just set the framework for that to happen. So without further ado, I don't want to get too in the weeds with these different programs, just trying to tease the waters. Additionally, we're growing. You'll see AFWERX, and now you're seeing AFVentures. We've got Spark, Prime, and now we're seeing Space is coming on board as well, DigitalWorks. Our network is getting bigger, and a big proponent of that is the Sbir and Sttr program. It's catching a lot of waves, not only in the private sector, but also in the defense space as well. And a lot of other programs have their eyes on this to benefit from the research and development that's being funded. 3 simple ways to get involved. If you're in the early stage of your product development, you're in pre-release, if you will. Sttr, which Jared will talk to you about here in a second, is a great way for you to jump in and get on a defense contract and find that defense market fit. If you've got a commercial product, if you've got a few sales, some paid pilots, you have some commercial traction, maybe a Sbir phase 1 is the best way for you to apply. And if you're ready for trial, you've already been working with your defense stakeholder, you know the adaptations that need to occur from your commercial product, then direct to phase 2 is an option that Jimmy will talk to you about here in a second. So without further ado, Jared, great to see you again. If you would not mind, talk to the folks about Sttr.
Of course. Thanks so much, Lee. Really appreciate the opportunity. So we're going to talk about the Sttr, the Small Business Technology Transfer Program. You'll notice that it's different from the Small Business Innovative Research Program, not only in name, but you can tell the difference in the topic code by the use of letters as opposed to numbers. So 21.A as opposed to 21.1. That's reflected throughout the paperwork, not only in the solicitation, but on the submission system and other places. So that's how you can know that we're talking about Sttr versus SBIR. So the program itself is really designed to be able to commercialize dual use technology and dual use research, right? We'll talk about some of the ways that it's really specifically tailored for that purpose, and we'll talk more about how it relates to SBIR, but it's still the same three-phase development program that you see, and we'll talk about later on in the program. Really, the intent here is to facilitate some of that that expansive and meaningful engagement between the research community, the small business community, and our defense marketplace. So that includes the Department of the Air Force now, as well as the other services. And ultimately, we want you to be able to use our funding to buy down some of the technology risk, product market fit, and some of the foundation of transition that will facilitate throughout the process. And we want to be your customer at the end of this, right? We want to be able to buy things from you, and we want other people in the commercial sector to be able to buy products from you as well. So one of the things that is important to note, the small business programs that we're talking about today, both STTR and SBIR, the Air Force is merely one agent for those programs. Some of the other kind of nuance in terms of solicitation and so on. So with that, we'll move on here to the next slide. All right, so as we kind of alluded to here just a moment ago, STTR is similar to Sbir in terms of it being a three-phase commercialization program. It's codified in statute. We have the same phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 construct, dollar amounts, contract awards, and process. We also mirror the timelines in terms of proposal submission and other things. So we're trying to make this simple. We have multiple programs that are following very much the same kind of stream and execution flow here. And just the same as SBIR, this STTR program also results in a sole source justification that can be used across the federal government, right? So not just the Department of the Air Force here, but something that can be used by the Department of Agriculture and NASA and any of the other federal organizations in the government space. That may not mean a whole lot to folks who are not used to working with the government, but it is a huge value proposition for those folks in the government who would like to work with you. And that reduces a lot of the barriers in terms of all the market research and all of the paperwork and time that goes into working with the commercial sector. So we're that second bullet really it brings down the barriers to entry for our government folks to take a year plus to be able to work with the commercial sector down to even just a few weeks or a couple months. But some of the things that make STTR specific or unique is our focus on commercializing research. So first of all, there's a mandate that every company who comes in and participates in the STTR program must partner with a qualifying research institution, an RI, as we call them, and that RI has to account for at least between 30 and 60% of the work. So that's reflected in the costs that are proposed, right? Those research institution is a proper noun. It's defined in policy, and it includes universities, it includes nonprofit, it includes federally funded research and development centers, and others who fit that definition. So there's a lot of opportunity there that maybe hasn't been realized in the previous generations of the program. Also, something that's unique to STTR is that the principal investigator may be primarily employed by the small business, but they may also be principally employed by the research entity. So if you have someone with a high opportunity cost, maybe like a tenured professor, for instance, they can go downtown, they can make their LLC, and maintain their day job as a professor and be able to work through this program as the principal investigator, for instance. Ultimately, we're leveraging close ties not only with our internal R&D community, but our operational community as well. So this is important when we talk about finding product market fit for your research and for your products. Okay, we'll go to the next slide here. This is a basic proposal structure. We'll talk about this a little bit later on in the program, but a few things that's important. The technical volume here, volume 2, is a maximum of 25 slides, right? Only a portion of those are required. What is not applicable to your particular case can be used to reinforce things that you'd like to talk more about. Certainly your volume 3, your cost information is going to be important as well. You'll input it there. And then volume 5 is another one that we want to make sure we highlight. Not only can you upload additional cost information that provides clarification on the system formatted inputs that you put in volume 3, but you also need to include a couple important things. One is the teaming arrangement with your research institution. It can be fairly simple, but we just need to know it exists. And along with that is the IP agreement that needs to be in place with them as well. There isn't a small business administration template available, so you can use that or you can have your own. Again, we're not adjudicating the details of those arrangements with either one of those. We simply need to know that they are in place. And then you have resumes and other things that you can put into to section 5 as well. All right. Signed MOUs or letters of support are cool. They're nice. You know, they certainly speak to the evaluation criteria, but they are not required for phase 1. They will be required for phase 2, but most of the conversation today will focus specifically on phase 1. And certainly Jimmy will talk about the direct to phase 2 later on as well. So, all right, we'll go to the next slide. All right, so there are some things that we can have a judgment call on, and there are some things that we cannot, right? Some things are written in statute that we simply don't have left and right limits on. And if we don't kind of make sure we have some of these fundamental things, these check boxes checked, we're simply not going to be able to evaluate or award your proposal. So these are things that you can take care of and should double check before the proposal actually comes in. So we mentioned between 30 and 60% of the proposal needs to be allocated for the research institution and the work that they're going to be providing there. You can see that in other terms there in the first set of sub-bullets. We're also talking about phase 1 only, with the exception of the SBIR direct to phase 2 later on in the briefing. What we're talking about for Sttr is for phase 1, $50K in 3 months. So if you come in and put in a cost of something that's more than $50K or longer than 3 months, we won't be able to evaluate that. So that's important. Complete proposals must be submitted through the official system, DSIP. We can't take things over email. We can't take materials over email. We're not allowed to pre-read or to recommend proposals or you know your prospects there. So that's not something that we're able to entertain, unfortunately. Also, another thing that's important is that the effort more largely has to be RD-T&E, right? So we're not procuring services from your company, right? And we're not simply buying a commercial thing, right? We have to be doing research and development, test or evaluation on your product or solution. So you can have a commercial variant, but we need to be very clear and distinct on the R&D work that you'll have to do and we'll be proposing to do to that commercial variant to make it special for this military application. Certainly, and then you have fraud, waste, and abuse training that comes part and parcel with these proposals as well. And you can simply follow the instructions. It's a fairly straightforward process, but it's mandatory regardless. So those are some of the non-negotiables, and we'll talk about some of the negotiables, I believe, on the next slide. And some of the things that make a proposal not just okay to be evaluated, but actually makes things good, right? So one of the things that we want to highlight is the fact that we got to make sure we do the simple things well, right? Meet those non-negotiables. But one of the things we also want to highlight is that we can speak to the evaluation criteria specifically. So we've listed them there, 1, 2, and 3. Those are pretty consistent across Sttr and SBIR. But the point here is that we're telling you exactly how we're going to evaluate your proposals, right? So you need to speak very overtly, very clearly to these points in particular, right? The submissions, as you can see there, are due by noon on the 18th of February. And that's when everything needs to be in the system. You'll hear it a couple times, but we urge folks to not wait till the last minute. The window opens up on the 14th of January, and please do take advantage of the 30-day plus opening between those 2 dates. The system can, just like anything else, tends to have trouble when everybody crashes at the last moment. And if your proposal comes in at 12:01 Eastern on the 18th, it simply won't be evaluated. So please don't wait to the last minute. All right.
Thank you, Jared. I want to echo, I'm a big fan. If you wait till the last minute, it only takes a minute. But in this case, we often see that the system gets inundated, bogged down, stuff gets missed, and proposals don't get in. So just like you were saying, absolutely. It shouldn't take you too long to generate one of these proposals. It's very similar to what you would expect to submit to a venture capital. Real quick, I know Jared has to bounce. Did Zoe or Jimmy, do you see any Sttr questions we can ask him real quick before he has to jet? And I'm going to pause my screen for 1 second.
I'm not seeing any so far. So we could give it a quick 30, 60 seconds. If you guys have STTR questions, please throw them up there so Jared can answer them. Because he's gonna be leaving us here in a couple minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of the same requirements in terms of foreign involvement and other kind of program level type of questions are applicable to STTR as well. But if there's STTR specific things that we can certainly touch on, I'd be happy to do that.
Jared, can human subjects be recruited for a phase 1 STTR?
So there are specific human testing requirements that are outlined in the solicitation. There are processes to go through that. So that is an option, but there's very specific wickets we have to make sure are crossed before we're able to really progress into the actual testing. You know what I mean? One of the questions that we tend to get in terms of the research institution is that a research institution does not have any restrictions in terms of how many companies they can work with. The research institution in this context is a subcontractor. So the subcontractor can work for as many primes, that is to say, as many small businesses as they would like, right? So if you have a research institution that is interested in working with this process, they can certainly participate in as many as they would like in that capacity.
They got a question too that they submitted to STTR 20.3. Can they submit again to 21.1?
Yeah, absolutely. So the short answer here is that one of the reasons we do these cycles like we do 3 times a year is for folks to go through the process. If they aren't successful that first go around, receive some feedback, right, and be able to make that second submission, that much better. And based on the needs of the program and of our defense marketplace here. So they certainly can resubmit if they would like.
And then you may not know this one, but can the IP agreement be included in the teaming agreement for STTR specifically?
Both things have to be in place, right? We are less worried about the formatting, right? If you combine 2 documents into one, we can make that work. It probably is a little bit more clear to split them up in the submission itself, just to clarify any potential confusion. But again, as long as we have those on file and we can verify that they're in place, we'll be able to move forward.
Perfect. Thank you, Jared. Hey, folks, again, AFWERX.af.mil, scroll down to STTR open topic underneath the for industry column. If you have additional questions there, again, check the eligibility underneath the solicitation. And Jared will still be up for a few more minutes on chat, but we're gonna push the fight. Hey, Zoe, Good to see you again. Shifting over to Sbir phase 1. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. So a lot of this stuff will be very similar to what you just heard for Sttr, but there are a few differences in Sbir. And so we'll jump into those and highlight them as we go. So the Sbir, very similar. It'll be 90 days, so a 3-month period of performance and up to $50,000. I would say the big difference between Sttr and Sbir, besides some of the requirements of the Research Institute and that sort of thing, is that if you have a higher TRL level technology, you're probably looking more at Sbir, not necessarily, but this program might be a little better fit towards you than if you have one of the lower level technologies. So the proposal structure, the whole point really of this program is to do technical feasibility on your solution to see if it fits one of the use cases that you find within the government. So you'll be doing kind of that customer discovery and technical feasibility as your statement of work for the most part. And so thinking of that, you're going to go into it kind of with that in mind in your proposal structure. And so volume 1, this is all pretty much the exact same as Sttr. So it'll be your basic information. You're going to need a SAM registration. You're going to need a DUNS number. You're going to need a cage code. You'll have an abstract as well as your contact info, all that stuff that goes on the cover sheet. DSIP will walk you through that. Then you'll have volume 2, which is your technical volume. So that's same thing, max of 25 slides. 11 of those slides are required. And then 9 are required as applicable / optional. So you can, just submit the 11, or you can submit all the way up to 25. That said, if you submit more than 25, we will only read the first 25 of your proposal. And I saw a question in there, should those be in, PDF format or should it be in PowerPoint format? PDF format is definitely preferred, and I think maybe you have to submit it through DSIP in that format as well. And then you can do an up to 5-page white paper as an option. So you can have that as an attachment, but it's definitely not a requirement. Just the slides are the requirement for the tech volume. And then you'll have cost information in volume 3. You do have to fill out a commercialization report for volume 4. Information on that and where to find it and how to do it is all in the solicitation. And then volume 5, you'll have your supporting documentation. So you can have additional cost info, which a lot of times can take, the form of an Excel sheet or however you'd like to present that. You can also have a work plan. It has to be non-proprietary. We need a non-proprietary work plan from you. So you're welcome to submit both, but we need that one that we can, actually pass along within the government as well. And then you're welcome to attach resumes for your key personnel. We're going to need your funding agreement and standalone section K. And then you're welcome to put letters of support. So this is phase 1, very similar to Sttr. MOU is not required for phase 1s, but letters of support or MOUs are always welcome. So you can submit those in the supporting documentation. It allows us to know that you've been in contact with government folks and that somebody may have an interest in your solution. And so please put those in there if you have them. Like I said, though, not required. So don't take that as a requirement for the open topic. And then the last thing, volume 6, will be your fraud, waste, and abuse training. Now, as we've said, the MOU isn't required for phase 1, but I do want you to know that it is required for phase 2. And Jimmy here in a little bit will talk about the directive phase 2 requirements, which also has that MOU. So while you don't have to have it for phase 1, just know that it's coming. So whenever if you're awarded your phase 1 during that period of performance, you're going to want to find that customer to get that MOU signed so that you can submit your phase 2 proposal. So the kind of what's next, same time frame for everything. So 18 February, noon Eastern is whenever these are due. We need your 25 slide tech volume, and you have to meet the baseline eligibility requirements. So that's, your registrations, the DUNS, the cage, all of that has to be finalized by then. So stuff that's in the works, stuff that, you haven't quite gotten around to, we can't accept it, and it's just how it is. Another thing, we can't accept things by email. So you need to send everything in through DSEP, go through that official process to submit your proposal. And then we'll, get that data from DSIP and we'll be able to review it afterwards, but we cannot review anything that you send in any other form. And, I'm just going to restate it, and I think Jimmy will restate it, and we'll probably say it again at the end. Don't wait until February 18th to submit your proposal. The system always crashes, and just, assume that those last day or two or three, everyone's going to be on it, and it might not work as well as you'd want to. And so if you can get it in a week early, or more, that's even better. And so really, we're pushing really hard for you guys to submit them before the 18th, even though that's the deadline. And it's at noon Eastern, not 12:01. So just keep that in mind. And then I'll jump real quick into our evaluation criteria, just so that you all can kind of can see that and get a feel for it. So it's very similar, as Jared said, to the Sttr criteria, but it's a little bit different than last time. So really, we've tried to be more specific in 21.1 than we have been in the past. And you'll see that, as we've kind of lined things out, so there's 3 criteria that we evaluate every proposal based on. And that generally is technical feasibility, defense need, and commercialization. So you can read that. That's straight from the solicitation. So whenever you pull up your solicitation, you can go right there and you can see, hey, this is exactly what we're reviewing and scoring your proposals based off of. This is all the information that you need, really. Kind of big points. Commercialization, we've added, a few things. So it's the SBC's record of you commercializing Sbir or other research. It also can be an indicator, pre-sales, pilots, revenue, sales, active users, subscriptions, downloads, any kind of form of traction or adoption is looked at for that kind of commercialization aspect of the criteria. And same thing with phase 2 follow-on commitments for your research. That can also be evidence of commercialization. So I hope that kind of expands, your knowledge of what we're looking for, and allows us to be a little bit more transparent about that. For defense need, really, a letter of support is a good indication of defense need, but it's also, just how you state your defense need. If you've thought through, what parts of the government your technology, your solution could fit into. And then I believe criteria 3 is mainly the same as it's been in the past, but that's just, it's the soundness, the technical merit, innovation of your proposed approach, so of your solution. So those are the things that you're going to want to hit on in your proposal, and those are the things that we're evaluating you against as we go through that process.
Zoe, will you talk about what's different as far as the proposal? Like, how does that look different this round as opposed to the last round?
So in the past, are you talking about the format? In the past, we've had just a 5-page white paper. And so you would kind of line out, a lot of the requirements based on, in that white paper format, where now it's in slides. That said, we do have a slide deck out. And so if you go to, I think somebody posted in the chat where you can find the solicitation and the instructions, there's an attachment there that has a slide deck. And so it's the same things that we've been looking for, in the past that you put into your white paper. However, it'll be in the form of slides. So don't submit that slide deck, but use it as a guide for, kind of a format for your slide deck. And so it will look different, but really these should be slides that, if you were presenting, commercially and outside of the government, these should be slides that are pretty simple, we hope, for you all to put together, because you should already have them, in 1 or 2, various decks that you're already using. So that was our goal, is just to put it a little more simply, to make it a little bit easier on you all to apply, to get, into the program, to be able to start working with AFWERX and AFVentures. And so hopefully, the slide deck requirement is something that is helpful.
Perfect. And then the last question for you, Zoe, then we'll shift it over to Jimmy. How does it look for a company that has never done business with the DoD before, phase one, day one? How are we helping them to connect?
So we utilize a platform for communications. We have government folks on there as well as our team. So, day one, you get your contract in hand. We hold basically a kind of giant kickoff meeting as well as calls every Friday. And so we'll kind of talk you through the process. We'll see where you're at in that customer discovery process and make connections the best we can as a team. But really, we're paying you, that $50,000 to go out and find your customer. So on your part, it's going to be probably a lot of research, a lot of emails, a lot of phone calls to try to get to the right customer. And then, just having those discussions once you found those 1, 2, 3 people who might be able to utilize your solution to really get more to the bottom of their problem. And so we try to walk you through it for sure, because we understand that many of you are new to the government and you haven't worked with us before. You're not familiar with kind of the crazy structure that is the United States Air Force, the DoD in general. And so we do our best to kind of lay that out for you. And on those Friday calls, we usually kind of have a theme every Friday where we talk about something different, and then just can answer as many questions as possible. Leif, do you have anything to add for that during the the phase one execution part?
Nope, perfect. Yeah, we've seen we've done this, I don't know how many times now, Zoe, 7, 8 times. And so we've taken lessons learned from companies going through experiencing this phase one of a feasibility study, and we've morphed a curriculum, if you will, of all right, let's start with the basics. Let's educate the companies on aspects that have been roadblocks for other companies in previous cohorts. So additionally, we'll help you connect. We've got some colliders ginned up potentially. We've got some technology we're testing out to try to help speed date, if you will. And so, yeah, our intent is to make your experience as seamless as possible from phase one, day one to submitting for phase two. Now, that being said, Zoe, back me up here. Phase one is a feasibility study, not only on your part, but on the Department of Defense part. We're looking for a win out of a phase one, which is one of 2 ways. Yes, let's go on. Let's keep furthering this adaptation. But a hard no is just as good as a point for determining the success of a phase one. So if there's no defense market fit, that's a successful phase one for us as well.
Absolutely. So again, the non-negotiables. You have to be a qualifying registered small business. So you have to have, those things we talked about before. You have to be registered SAM. You need a DUNS number. You need a cage code. The kind of big thing with that is U.S. small business 50%, and then under 500 employees. There are other requirements that you can go look up on SBA.gov. So the solicitation is for phase one. So the maximum contract terms is $50,000 in 3 months. If you propose more than that, it's just something that we can't evaluate based on. So the other thing, as we mentioned before, complete proposals have to be submitted through DSIP, the DSIP system. They cannot be submitted through email. We can't pre-read proposals or comment on your proposals. We can't recommend stuff like that because we're the evaluation team. We're leading the evaluation team. So those are important to note. We do get folks that email stuff in, and the response always back is going to be, hey, you need to submit that through DSIP. We can't take it. And then it has to be research, development, test, and evaluation. And I think towards the end of the director phase 2 portion, we will talk maybe a little bit more about what this means, because we really want you guys to be able to lay out, hey, what kind of research and development, test, or evaluation are you doing, in your proposal. So this is not a services contract. It's not procurement. And that's important to note, as SBIR funds RDT&E, we have to put that money towards the proper place. The non-negotiables, again, the fraud, waste, and abuse training. And then, if you don't meet all of these things, then we won't be able to evaluate your proposal. So we're hoping that, in saying this a few times, you guys can get the right stuff in there so that you don't have any issues, especially as it can be confusing, your first time applying. And I think I'll turn it over to Jimmy for the direct phase 2.
Hey, thanks, Zoe. And actually, before I even step into the direct to phase 2, Leaf, did you want to talk at all a little bit about the regular traditional way from going from the phase 1 that a phase 2 would usually go in?
Oh, it goes in the, yeah, go ahead, Leaf.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm glad you brought that up. We saw some questions, RDT&E for phase 1. Yeah, Sbir and Sttr funding is congressionally, we're statutorily bound by the efforts being RDT&E, research, developing, test, and evaluation. What's unique about this open topic phase 1, whether it's Sttr or SBIR, that we're just looking for a feasibility study from you guys. So you're not doing any prototyping. You're not delivering any tangible items per contract. You're doing nothing more than seeing if there's a defense market fit for your current technology. So that's all it is that we're looking for. Then you determine a game plan with your stakeholder and submit a phase 2. This is all going from 0 to 1. We've got a problem and we've got a potential roadmap to find a solution. That's Sbir phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 is let's determine the roadmap. Phase 2 is now let's go execute that plan together with industry and the Department of Defense and come up with a prototype that solves the problem. We're not here to scale it out. Just like Zoe mentioned, we're not here for procurement. We're here to help you and our stakeholders in the Air Force and Space Force find a solution with you. Then they in turn could scale out. Jimmy, did that hit the nail on the head?
Yeah, 100%. So if we go to the next slide there. All right, so he mentioned kind of the transition now from the traditional way of going from phase 1 to phase 2. And now I want to show you guys what we have now, which is called the direct to phase 2. And basically what that allows you to do is to skip the actual phase 1. It's going to do that exact same thing that Leaf mentioned, which is doing the trial and validation, basically prototyping. It's going to be a higher dollar amount, 15 months up to $750,000, but to do exactly that same RDT&E to basically meet an Air Force end user and customer need. Next slide. So you're going to see this proposed structure is going to look very similar, and a lot of the discussion that we've had already with Leaf, Zoe, and Jared basically hold true here. However, there are differences with when you jump to the phase direct to phase 2, because you are now skipping all that phase 1. So you have to basically provide all that same information you would have provided in that phase 1. But now there's some mandatory requirements here. A couple ones I want to just point out. One is in volume 1, when you're doing the initial registration stuff, there's going to be some questions on foreign involvement through the visa portal. If you do qualify on that, there will be a portion I'll mention in volume 5 about doing an addendum. When you get to volume 2, again, there's that slide deck requirement. Again, 25 slides max, 11 required on there. Now, the difference here is only 4 are going to be required as applicable. The rest are all completely optional to kind of further discuss your technology. And then, but then we also have a 15-page white paper that is required. So that will be in your volume 2. Cost volume is going to be same in there. Volume 4, that is going to be a requirement, having that commercialization report. So just go to the website, like it says, to follow those directions. Volume 5, I didn't add everything in there, so I'm going to just kind of touch upon some of the really big ones. When you jump up to the direct to phase 2, one of the ways that you satisfy the requirement for not going through that phase 1, that technical feasibility or customer discovery, is by doing the signed memorandum. And there is a new template that we have that if you look at the solicitation, it's going to be one of the attachments there. So please take a look and do not use like an older version. But really what that MOU is going to do is you're going to basically find an Air Force customer and an end user, and you're going to get them basically to sign off that what you guys are proposing is going to meet some type of requirements for them. And they're going to lay out what that defense need is and basically how your solution technology is going to address that. Also, it's going to talk about really like, are they giving any funds? Is the customer giving any government funds towards the effort? What's transition strategy look like? So, because we're always looking with an eye of turning this into something in the Air Force. So, how do we get your technology now from this phase 2 to now in something with the Air Force as a contract? So, there's going to be all these things, but the big thing is you need it signed. So, when you find this customer, they're going to sign off, and that basically shows us here on the direct to phase 2 side that, hey, they've satisfied the requirements of that phase 1. Also, the technical volume will show that too, because that will also address that technical feasibility issue. But really, they shouldn't be signing on if that wasn't the case already. So another big one too on there I want to highlight is the phase 2 funding commitments. Now, it is optional, so you can apply to direct to phase 2 with no government matching. That is completely fine. But as I'll discuss in a later slide, it can go towards when we're looking at tie breaks is the amount of government match would go towards that. So also, when we look on the defense needs side, government dollars shows their commitment because they're putting up they're funding their own dollars for your technology ahead of time. So that's a good representation of that defense need. The other stuff has already kind of been discussed. The foreign disclosure addendum, I'll go to a little bit further, but basically, that will be in this volume 5 as well. It's an attachment to that solicitation if it's required on your part. And then also there's going to be a contractor certification regarding provisions of prohibited video surveillance and telecommunications service equipment. Just take a look in the solicitation. It'll talk about that, and it's just basically a sign up on that. And finally, the volume 6 fraud, waste, and abuse training. You got to have that completed. Next slide, please. So I've already talked mostly again about this customer memorandum, but again, it really does capture your interest of that Air Force user. So again, by not going through that phase 1, this shows, hey, here's our defense users, and here's what they're going to be using our technology for. Make sure it's signed, and really it needs to be signed by both the customer and end user. And sometimes they are one and the same. But most of the time it is going to be different. So in our way, the end user is the one that benefits from it, the one that actually uses the technology, and the customer would be the one that would actually be purchasing it on behalf of the Air Force. Next slide, please. And I'll just kind of quickly touch upon some of this evaluation criteria. I know Zoe and Jared have already done kind of a great job of explaining how it is, but really it's going to break out into the same things, which is commercialization, defense need, and technical merit. So commercialization, Zoe's touched upon it, which is we can look at a lot of different things for traction, sales, pre-sales, pilots, all those things can go towards showing that. On the same time, private investment is not required. However, that can go towards showing your commercialization efforts. Also, the transition strategy that is shown in that MOU can also go towards that commercialization. Now, switching on to defense need, a lot of that is going to be captured in that MOU. So when you are working with your Air Force customer on that or end user, make sure that you guys are really spelling out what that defense need is on their behalf, and basically how you guys, your technology or whatever you're providing is addressing that. So that's really going to be what we're taking a look at on that. And then finally, the technical merit, it's pretty self-explanatory. I think Jared did a really good job in kind of discussing what that looks like. So again, just really putting that out there, and you're going to have, again, that whole 15-page volume 2 to really lay that out there. Next slide. Matching funds, just a couple just things on that. I've already kind of talked about that in terms of they're not required. However, again, they can show towards evidence of commercial potential. Also, I want to say that, already mentioned it, but combined funding commitments directly related to a phase 2 from private or non-Sbir government may be considered to determine the successful offer when multiple proposals are equal. So again, that's that dollar amount that if it ends up being a tie, that's what we can use to look at that. Mechanically, in terms of the government side of the house, if you guys get that government match, it needs to be received by the Air Force within 30 days, and then for private investment within 9 days. Next slide. And foreign disclosure addendum, again, really look through the solicitation on this. But basically, there's going to be a portion when you're first filling out through the DISA portal. It's going to ask some questions on employees that are ties that with foreign disclosure. These are basically, if you check yes on that, it's going to ask you to fill out this form. And here's really just the 6 questions that it's going to ask. Really, is the company currently employ foreign nationals? Basically, it's going to talk about investment financing from foreign-based individuals or entities and potential operations in other countries. So really, it's pretty self-explanatory. Just take a look at that, and if it's required from you, just fill that out and just include it in. So next slide. And that's pretty much it on the defense or the directive phase 2. And again, if you have any questions, we can answer those at the end.
Sweet, thank you, Jimmy. Hey, I'm getting a little feedback from I think YouTube coming through on your side. If you wouldn't mind seeing if you can mute your YouTube screen. Any questions for Jimmy? Throw them in chat. I saw a couple. Jimmy, will you talk about what's different between the previous round of direct phase 2 and this current round of direct phase 2? You talked a little bit about, if both proposals are tied, can you expand upon a little bit with the matching funds of what's going to set them apart?
Hey, can you repeat that? Sorry, Leaf.
Yeah, if both proposals are similar in weight, matching funds, can you expand upon, what's going to separate them apart? It used to be least cost to government, but now we're seeing combined. Is that both private and government? Like, how does that look?
Yeah, so I'll actually just read it out directly from there, which again says combined funding commitments directly related to the subject phase 2 effort from private and or non-Sbir government sources may be considered to determine the successful offer when multiple are equal in technical merit.
Sweet. So to summarize, if multiple proposals are similar in their review, it's the combined matching funds that would set them apart, not least cost to government.
And that's a change for 21.1.
Perfect. Some questions. Can they submit more than one direct to phase 2? Yes,
they can.
And can they be on a direct phase 2 and a previous phase 2?
As long as it's completely different, what they're trying to provide to the government.
Perfect. Yeah, folks, the federal government is not in a position to pay you twice for doing the same work. So yes, you can have multiple submissions, multiple contracts within SBIR and Sttr. However, we cannot have duplication of efforts between a phase 1, phase 2, or any of the Sbir STTR contracts. So the onus is on you to first cross-check yourself before you submit. Have you already been paid for this? It'll ask you a question when you submit, and it's a simple yes or no. But do yourself the favor. Hey, team, have we already been paid for this effort? All right, moving on, identifying a defense need. So there's a multitude of areas. Zoe, would you mind talking about the focus areas? We saw one question, space pitch day is still on there. Would you mind expanding upon this? We've got about 5 minutes. So if you can drive on.
Yeah, so I'll go quick. So the focus areas basically are markets of interest. You'll see these as, one of the, ways you can identify defense need on the solicitation, listed with along with a couple others that we'll show in the next slide. The focus areas are up for up to a 6-month, amount of time. They're up there because it's a need that the Department of Defense, specifically the Air Force and Space Force, have. So some of those won't necessarily change. Some of them will change minimally because those are still needs that, we're looking for, areas that we're looking for solutions in. And so you might see them up, from the last time, and that's okay. You can find those all on the AFWERX website under Air Force Ventures. The link is right there. You can also find them on that Sbir portion, which I'm not sure is accurate anymore. So definitely on the AFWERX App Ventures page. And then if you want, you can reference that focus area, in your proposal. There are other avenues though to kind of kick off the, hey, is there a defense need for, my solution question and discovery. There's Air Force Tech Connect, there's small business specialists. So all, throughout the country, you can log in and find one located near you. There's also PTAC, so the Procurement Technical Assistance Centers, which are also located throughout the country. If you go to that link there, you can find those all over. And like I said, these are in the solicitation too. You could participate in an AFWERX challenge. And then there's the Defense Innovation Marketplace that you can go and visit as well. So DTIC could help you maybe with that customer discovery portion of your proposal. And then last thing, how to apply. So training on submitting proposals is found on the AFWERX website. Again, this will take you to, a lot of government websites. So it'll still, really in the end tell you to go to DSIP and kind of go through that process. But hopefully we put a few, things on there that can help you walk through that a little bit more easily.
Yeah, absolutely, Zoe. To add on to it, just we got a lot of questions on eligibility. Foreign nationals on my team. Am I ITAR related? A lot of these questions, majority VC owned. Go to AFWERX.mil. Step 1 is, all right, here's a checklist to see if your company's eligible to even apply. It's also gonna push you towards registering for certain systems that we require, that Congress requires for you to be registered in, for you to receive a defense contract, SAM, CAGE, DUNS, etc. It's got the links right there. Very simple to do. However, it can take some time for SAM to come back for you to register for the next one. So it would behoove you, if you're interested in participating in the Department of Defense, whether it's Sbir, STTR, or any other contracting vehicle, highly recommend just fill that out for your company if you have not done so already. Get the registration numbers, and when the opportunity arises for you to come up to apply, you're already good to go there. Looking at notes. Oh, okay. We've seen a lot of questions on select not funded, non-select. The Air Force is not required to award all, some, or none of any of these proposals that come through. So you may see yourself finding a notification letter of either select not funded, or non-select. Non-select is simple. You didn't meet the criteria. Select means you met it, and we've got funding for you available for that round. Select not funded means you met the criteria. However, we do not have funding to further that effort. That does not shut the door on that opportunity. Any other federal agency can still support that effort with their Sbir funds, and we can help navigate that field should you find yourself in that boat. But yeah, a lot of questions on that. Hopefully we're being as transparent as possible while still maintaining the integrity of the program. We're at a few seconds left. Jimmy, any parting shots? Then Zoe, I'll turn it over to you for any parting shots.
No, I'll cede my time.
Great. Jimmy, still lots of questions about direct to phase two and different types of funding to put towards that. Can you just iterate, the matched funding requirement and that there's
Yeah, again, there is no requirement for it. So I just want to put that out to folks just so they know there's no need for private investment or even government match. But what those can go towards is, again, with the private match, it can go towards your commercialization. So it can show that that it's satisfied that. In terms of the government match, that can also be used on defense need because it can show their commitment towards your effort. I think I also saw something on phase three. Phase three can also be used towards the phase two as well. So in fact, I'll read off a thing. It says basically, if presence of a related phase three award will be used to satisfy a government's second phase funding commitment, it must be awarded within 60 days of the direct to phase two award under this solicitation. So you can still apply for the phase two, even if that customer is still going to do a phase three. Then there needs to be just that mechanical portion of that phase three award could be used to satisfy the government matching portion of that. So take a look in the solicitation on that. I also saw someone mention that they didn't see the attachment. It is, take a look through that entire solicitation. It is an attachment to that, and it is the new template as well. So. Zoe, on you.
Yeah, thanks for clearing that up. Just want to make sure everybody knows, there is no requirement for matched funding. I don't have anything else. We'll host another AMA on January 29th. So that's kind of your last minute chance to ask questions. We probably won't go through, this presentation again. We'll probably mostly do a Q&A during that portion. So, as you're going through the application process, as you have questions, just write them down, and then we'll do our best to answer as many as we can in that hour on the 29th. So go ahead and join us back there. Again, if you type in AFWERX into YouTube on that day, it should pop up, as one of the events. And so we're looking forward to reading applications, closing out this round, and just seeing all the really neat things that you all are doing for our country and our nation.
Hey, Zoe, too, I think we'll also take a look based on the questions that are getting thrown in the chat here. We'll try to capture those and already have some of those answers ready to go for the next round when we have them.
Absolutely, yeah. We can kick it off with previous questions and answers for sure.
So thanks for everyone for putting those questions out there for us.
We need you to apply. If you think your technology can help benefit the defense of this nation in any way, shape, or form, or if you're not sure if you have a place for your technology to have a defense market fit, apply, please. That's the only way you can get that next step. We've lowered a lot of the barriers. There's still some barriers because we're dealing with taxpayer funds, but we've made it definitely a lot easier for the private sector to work with the Department of Defense. This has been specifically geared towards open topics. Sorry if that was not clear. We're seeing a lot of questions on other topics. This is just for the CSO-1 topics that are out there for 21.1. So you may see other topics out there that are similar, but different requirements, different points of contacts. Still, by all means, apply to those. If your technology rests within those verticals, by all means, apply to those as well. That's still an option for you, and we will keep the doors open for this open topic as well. From our team to yours, again, echoing everything Jimmy and Zoe said, thanks for dialing in, and more importantly, thanks for caring about the defense of this nation and how you can help us.